Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm meadsyreplays. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to look at a brand new tank that has just hit the stores, and it is the Smv Cc 64 Vipera. Vipera? I don't know. Vipera. Let's just say Vipera. So, of course, it is very similar to that of the Smv Cc 64, which I've just recently made a video of, hence why I made that video. So, it was kind of like a teaser ready for this this premium tank. So like the original, it has got the reverse shell, so it only has that gun, where of course I've just made a video saying that do not use the reserve shell gun, use a single shot gun. Now it does have a little bit of turret armor, a little bit of hull armor, not too much, and the DPM for what it is pretty decent at 2,475. Now your shell between each shot is 2 seconds, and you've got to remember you have 2 shells, which makes this tank more difficult to play because it is the reserve shell. So you fire once, 2 seconds later you've got another shell, but you don't really want to shoot that shell because you have a 20-second reload for that shell, including the, well, you've got the 2 seconds for the intra clip as well. So of course you do have the 2 shells, which again makes it very difficult to play with 2 shells. If you shoot just the first shell, you have a 7.7 second reload plus your 2 second intra clips, 9.5 seconds per reload, which I don't think is too bad. Your AP pen is 259, your APCR pen is 305, and your HE is 66. You have a 400 alpha gun, 345 on your APCR, and 515 on your HE. Your aim time is 3.9, so not the best, but you know, it's not the worst. And your gun dispersion is 0.335. Again, not the best, but also not the worst. You do have a 11 degrees of gun depression, which is very, very nice, just like that of the original. And your top speed is not 60, 35 kilometers per hour. So overall, I don't mind the tank. I don't love it. Again, I do prefer the original because you can change the gun, and I would not play the auto loader on the original SMV. You have to play it with a single shotgun because it's just so much better. You have to. Now, the problem with this one is it only has the 2 shells. If it had 3 shells, I think it would be much, much better, because again, you can fire a shell, you can fire your second shell, and then you can decide if you want to fire that 3rd shell or not. Where with this gun, with this tank, because it just has 2 shells, you can really only fire once, and you've got to try and refrain from firing that 2nd shell unless you absolutely have to. And I say that with all auto loaders with the reserve shell, that you have to be very careful when playing these, because you know, you don't want to dramatically decrease your DPM, and that is exactly what happens if you fire that 2nd shell. So you need to try and hold off. I know it's difficult, it is very difficult, especially when you've got a target in front of you and you've got a clear shot. You have to try and hold off from firing that shot, and just be patient and wait. Now, the only time I would really fire the 2nd shell is, one, if you absolutely have to, if you've got tanks around you, and if they're a one shot. If they're a one shot, then yes, of course, I would fire the shell. But again, it all depends on who's around you. If you've got 4 tanks around you on your team, and they're all looking at that same guy, then yeah, of course, I wouldn't fire my 2nd shell. I would let them deal with him. But if I absolutely have to, and it helped saving me, especially if I'm sort of this amount of hit points where one more shot I'm a one shot, then yes, maybe I would fire that 2nd shell. So we're going to bring that guy down to a one shot, and this is what I mean. So at this point, it's a 4 versus 3. Anything can happen. I've got no other targets around me, so I'm going to use my 2nd shell. So just think about it. Don't be afraid to use that 2nd shell, but just think ahead before you do use that 2nd shell. If you know you're not going to be in any bother, you know you're not going to die, then yeah, of course, use that shell. Now, this is where I wish I didn't didn't use the shell because of I would have had 2 shells reloaded, and I would be able to easily go for this this Chimera. But you know, 2,100 damage. We're trying to get out of the way now because we want to stay alive. We don't want to die. But what we are going to do, we're just going to hide and we're going to wait for our team. We're going to fire. We've got 2 shells reloaded, and I want to make them count because, you know, anything can happen. Even though, yes, it is a 4 versus 1 now, anything can happen. So we're just going to fast forward it a little bit because we just sit there and wait for our team to come forward. And then I was pushing because I was hoping the T-49 would actually stay alive a little bit longer. But at this point, it is a 3 versus 1. As long as I get to him and do a bit of damage, my 2 other guys are coming behind very, very quickly. So at this point, I don't mind just sort of waiting down this hill. I want to get him spotted. And then I was intending just to sort of wait at the bottom of this hill for my team to come. But unfortunately, I don't quite get the shot off. He does turn his turret, and I'm just going to wait. You can see the Skoda going. I just want to track this guy, but obviously it don't work, and then I bounce my second shot, and then I do die, but we do manage to go on and win the game. So 2,500 damage, nothing special considering we got absolutely ripped apart very, very early on. But yeah, I just wanted to show that game because, you know, I used the reserve shell twice there. One was right at the end, which it didn't really matter, but I bounced anyway, and then one was to clear that T-34, and I used that the second shell on purpose because I had nothing else around me. Now we're going to watch a game where I try my hardest, and it's very hard because you just automatically do it. You know, you don't sit there and think, you know, I'm not going to shoot. Most people will see that as a shell and doing damage. They don't see it as a 20-second reload afterwards, and a lot of people do that. So now I've got the second shell. Reloaded again, I take the shot, I back off a little bit, and I wait for that first shell to be reloaded. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to get the shot off on the AMX here, get 1 shot off, back up, and again, I don't really want to use the shell, but I do use that shell because I know, again, I've got nothing else around me apart from this guy in front that's not causing me any issue, and I do manage to take a very fast tank out of the game very, very early on. A tank that can come back to haunt us, a tank that can spot us from a mile away, an auto loader. So that is why I did use that that second shell, sorry. So again, I've reloaded 1 shell. I'm going to start pushing forward. I'm not going to shoot this AMX here. I do get a nice bounce. I'm going to wait for the second shell, and then I do take the shot, and again, I'm just going to wait for it again. I'm not going to shoot my final shell. I'm going to wait to reload both of my shells. So we do reload both shells, bring him down to a 1 shot, and again, even at this point, I don't want to really clear him because there are other tanks around, and if I shoot that second shell, I've then got a 20-second reload with quite a few tanks around me. So yeah, it really does take some thinking, and that is the difficult thing when only having a tank with 2 shells rather than 3 or even 4. It just makes you think that little bit more. You have to think that little bit more. But, you know, if you have to use it, use it. But when you do use it, just make sure you are aware of your surroundings. So, you know, there's 3 tanks left at this point. The T-28, no problem. I've got 2 shells left. Now, at this point, because there is only 1 tank left, I was actually going to shoot him with my final shell. But in the end, I didn't have to. And then all 6 of us go hunting for an E25. Unfortunately, I don't manage to find him. My team does over the other side of the map, as it always freaking is. I want that more damage, but then, of course, the tank is the other side. But we do come away with a nice victory. And again, I just wanted to show that game because, you know, I don't sit there and never fire that second shell. I only fire it if I absolutely have to. And that is what you guys need to do as well with these kind of shells. Overall, I would not buy the tank. You might as well go and play the tech tree version because at least you can put a better gun, a better auto, just a single shot gun on that tank. And I just think it is a better tank than this premium. So, you know, it's going to be there for crates. I wouldn't purchase it. I would maybe wait for it to come for sale. But overall, even if it was for sale for gold, I just prefer the original Smv Cc 64. But for now, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I'm Meadsy, and I'll catch you all soon. Bye-bye.